it turns out that our metabolism is dynamic. And so it requires dynamically, modulating our caloric intake. So in the first half of your cycle, the follicular and the ovulatory phases, your metabolism is slower relative to yourself, not relative to men.
Right.
That's important to say. And you can absolutely eat fewer calories. You can do more, intermittent fasting. You'll feel good with less. Once you're over the ovulatory moment and you're now in the luteal phase, studies show your metabolism speeds up and you need 279 more calories per day.
Hmm.
And if you don't get them, you're going to do all sorts of disruptive things to your system, right? Because you're going to disrupt insulin, cortisol, and eventually progesterone, and then the next cycle of ovulation, right? So we have to really, again, modulate our caloric intake to match the metabolic reality that is being um, dynamically affected by this biological rhythm. And if we don't, we then disrupt our hormones, and then over time we start to really profoundly disrupt this biological rhythm that then just it's like a vicious circle that we want to sort of avoid. So we have to throw out a lot of the things that we've assumed are true about what is optimal around wellness, because it is optimal for a specific gender and their biological rhythm and not ours. And we have to just unhook ourselves from that. And so many women continue to try to restrict calories in the luteal phase, and they're hungry, and their anxiety is like a huge problem for women in
Yeah.
you know that comes, really a lot of it can be resolved just by getting the right caloric intake dialed in throughout the month. If you're eating enough, your brain is going to be functioning more optimally. And we all know what happens when we feel hangry, right? And that's exacerbated in the luteal phase, where you're not getting enough calories if you're waking up sort of half out of a trance, so to speak, at the bottom of a bag of chips or
Right.
cookies.
Right.
This is your neurotransmitters taking over for you. When you haven't given yourself enough calories, ghrelin is going to take over, and you're going to eat, but you're not going to make great food choices.
Right.
So if that is what is going to happen to you, because we are really governed by our biochemistry more than we'd like to admit, what do you want to do? How do you want to play that? Do you want to wait till ghrelin takes over, or do you want to proactively, preemptively front load your caloric intake the way you're supposed to meet your metabolic shift? And I would say we should be doing the latter, right? And so this is what the cycle syncing method will help you do with the food piece, not just on the caloric intake side, but also using food strategically to help with the things that are taking place hormonally. For example, I mentioned the difference between acne in the ovulatory phase versus the luteal phase. So many of us struggle with ovulatory estrogen excess, right? We
Yep.
have chin breakouts, we have issues there, mid-cycle pain, etc. There's a food chart in chapter 4 of In the Flow that's going to sort of share with you the ideal foods that are going to really supercharge your liver, which is
Hmm.
responsible for breaking down estrogen in its phases of detoxification, to support that whole process, right? And to make sure that it gets out through the gut as quickly as possible. So we're not just looking at caloric intake, although that's one very important piece. We're also looking at how can you use food functionally to support what is happening with the body in each of these phases. So it's a really powerful combination of really, really taking care of your hormones in a way that you've never done before.